All right, let's take a look at how to break up this very circular city center here. What I want to do is identify the bit of this node network up here that is generating that city center data, and I kind of want to just put it into its own little section so it gets a little bit easier to track. And we want to insert this logic before we calculate the city center, because we're going to be feeding it into what those values look like. So I'm going to duplicate this get texture data node. We're going to head over here. We're going to import a noise texture, which I will make available. If we take a look at it, you can see that the red channel has some noise in it, the green channel has a different noise, and the blue channel has a different noise again. I think I generated this in Substance Painter. I can't really remember. You can build this in Photoshop with the clouds filter, or you can download something from someplace else. Doesn't really matter. And then again, I will make this texture available if you just want to use this one. So we're going to go ahead and drop it into the texture slot there, and we can leave it at red for now. We don't really know how it's going to look, so we'll just cycle through them once we get it hooked up. Okay. Now, just like this, we're going to go ahead and create a sample texture node here. I'm going to hold Control, and for now we'll just kind of plug stuff in like this. And so what this will do is it'll bake this data onto our points. And once again, we're going to want to do a copy attributes. And we can plug this into both target and source, and it's going to be coming from density, but we want to create a new attribute here called noise. And we can get rid of this little conversion here. So we'll go ahead and have a little comment, as we may want to play with this in a minute. Let's scoot this over a little bit. So now we've got this noise attribute, and if I come over, whatever, we can even just grab this one here, and we'll inspect this node by tapping the A key. And scrub over a little bit, we should see we now have a noise attribute. So what I want to do is I'm going to figure out, using a max node, which value is higher. Is it my noise value or is it my city center value? So we'll drop down a max node. Once again, plug our point stream here into both the in A and in B. Except in this case, what we're going to be looking for is which value is higher. Is it either city center or is it noise? And we'll just pipe out whichever value is higher. And we should see that update here in a moment. There we go. So now we're getting a more irregular boundary there, and some other little spots are popping up here on our map, which looks pretty cool. So now we can head over to our noise and just take a look at what these other channels might look like. Tap the green there. So there's green. I'm going to take a quick look at blue. And there's blue. I think I liked red the best. So again, your noise will have a different result, and you'll kind of want to go from there. Now, there's one thing I wanted to mention about this max node here. The reason that we're seeing it update is because it's outputting the source, which is in this case city center. To be really safe, it'd be better to go ahead and be very specific about this, because if these inputs were reversed and we had the noise on the top, it would be outputting to the noise and we wouldn't see anything updating here. All right, there's one more thing I want to do, which is I want to grab this value here, this noise value, and I want to add a multiplier so that I can dial it up or down. So I'm going to add a multiply node. ahead and break everything. So the input source here is going to be our noise attribute. I'm going to create, in this case, an attribute and a constant are going to kind of function the same because I'm hard coding this value. So if I set this to 1, we'll see it should pass through as expected. Let me go ahead and just get rid of this conversion here. But if I set this to something like 1.5, what we'll end up doing is weighting our noise at a higher value than our city center, and we should see a greater impact. So there you can see we're starting to get a little bit more of that. Less of an influence here at the city center. I set it to 2. We should pretty much just see the noise. So anyway, that's a simple way that you can moderate the influence of the noise, and we can expose this to the blueprint. Probably at the end of this, we'll expose a lot of these hard-coded values to the blueprint so that it could be modified external to the graph. Okay, the next thing I want to take a look at here is kind of rebuilding our streets. So you can see they're showing up here in our small points, but we've really lost it here in the larger city areas. So currently the only place we're doing anything with the road data is the small buildings. And that's happening over here in this filter attribute elements node, where we're grabbing anything that is less than 0.5 for its roads value, right? This is actually set to greater than, but if I set it to less than and plug in like that, that's a slightly more logical way to go about removing the road data. So what I would prefer to do, rather than adding something similar to this to each of my point streams here, is I'm going to add it over here, and that way we have a single place where we can edit it. So I'm going to create a merge points node and plug all of these into it like that. I'm going to grab my processed landscape data, which is what we're generating at the end of this long stream up here. And we'll do an attribute filter here. And in this case, we're looking for anything with a roads attribute that is, we'll use constant threshold here. In this case, I do want the roads. So to show you what we've got, if I just add a debug, we can see it. It's inheriting some of the density from whatever, the city center operation, but whatever, we can see that those points are in there. And that's really all we're looking for. The density is not going to have an impact on how they function inside of a difference node, which we're going to add now. So our source will be all of our buildings here, and our differences will be our roads. And then we can plug this into our static mesh spawner and grab the difference node and set it to binary. And what we'll see is we are now removing any of the buildings that happen to be sitting across a road. And as you can see, we are removing a tremendous amount of buildings. So there are a few things that we can do. I think the most logical one is going to be to actually scale up our roads so that we're not generating such tiny lines that are definitely going to be intersecting with our buildings. To do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go find where our road texture data is getting sampled. Right here. We can go to the transform, and I'm just going to double it. So I'm going to kind of pull out a little bit. And we can just put an asterisk and a 2, and an asterisk and a 2. And what you'll see is once this is finished processing, is our roads are now significantly bigger. So all we did was we basically just zoomed in on our image. And I think that's actually looking pretty cool. So that's probably going to be where we are going to leave it. What I want to look at before we refine the road stuff more, which clearly we need to do, is the buildings will make more sense if they are aligned with the roads. So that's going to be a little bit of a process that we're going to take a look at in the next video.